Okay.
Yeah.
This is the UBP ESP R&B 3, 2, 1. Untitled Beatles podcast.
Yeah, you know me. Topical rap reference.
Very topical. Yeah, just apply it on the top of your skin, and that way, apply that song to your pulse points, and get some action.
Naughty by Nature is the new Neosporin.
Sensual Neosporin.
It's a great Marvin Gaye tune. Wake up. Ointment on your hand.
Remember when Marvin sold that to Neosporin?
So whenever you use a bandage, use Neosporin.
It is the Untitled Beatles podcast. Of course, still looking for a title. TJ, I'm Tony. Tony, I'm TJ. Who are you?
I'm TJ, and I hope Neosporin will remember. Put some lotion on your burn. That's the truth.
Now, those guys were buddies, actually. I think that was some playful kidding around, as far as I've read, regarding the Neil Young, Leonard Skinner dispute.
Well, I heard Mr. Young sing about her. Well, I heard O'Neill put it down. Well, I hope Neil Young will remember. I said that man don't need him around anyhow. Sweet home Alabama.
You know, I never knew that. I always thought it was real. And as much as I like a lot of Skinner's music, I'm team Neil Young in that battle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I like them both, but Neil.
And
yeah.
what Neil Young was singing about was accurate. Neil Young's song Alabama was accurate and truthful. Like, sorry if Skinner's from there, but, you know, what Neil Young said was correct. How come a Canadian has opinions on America that differ from mine?
Why you have a leaf on your flag? Why is it red?
Yeah, how come you got communist syrup over there? And what the fuck with Tim Hortons?
I mean, a little bit. About the second part, a little bit.
Much. All right, already. Yeah, we have it too. It's called Dunkin' Donuts.
Or Duncan, I guess the kids are saying, TJ.
That's right.
Duncan.
Now.
Yeah.
Because the second half is pastryist.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Stop the patriarchy.
There it is.
Got the rest of the union to help you along. What's going wrong?
Well, TJ, we are going to be talking about our predictions of the extended red and blue titles coming out, I believe, remixed sometime soon. We don't know when. It could be dropping any minute now.
Yeah, by the time this episode is out, there could be an official press release. I read there was supposed to be one the first week of August, that there was going to be an announcement that clearly was not made. But yeah, ever since Penn Jillette, of all people, like, God bless Penn Jillette. But
I love him. Penn and Teller, the early influence on me as a young boy.
We're at my mother's grave now. Mom, I swear to you, we will not use any camera tricks in our TV special. Thank you.
I knew Penn Jillette was a Beatle fan, but he came out on his podcast, about a month ago, and talked about hearing now and then, and said that they de-aged Paul's voice, which isn't true.
And they made Paul's voice younger.
I believe then Ringo or someone came out and said it just recorded from
94,
the era when
right?
Paul was younger. Yeah, that would have been 94 when they would have recorded those. And of course, released in 95, at least Free as a Bird was that November, and then Real Love the following year in 96. But yeah, there was that. But also weirdly in this Penn Jillette podcast was a remix of the Red and Blue album, not just a reissue, but a remix. And then we learned recently it may be an expanded edition of each.
Yes. You were talking to, who was it? You were talking to
I was talking to Alan Kozin, the longtime Beatle fan contributor, New York Times writer, talking to him at Beatle Fest, trying to get something out. I also talked to Spicer, trying to get some Rubber Soul information, because I want to know what the deluxe Gnome reissue is going to be at the end of the year, right? There's got to be a Beatle Christmas thing, and it's got to be Rubber Soul if they're going to go back in time.
You were practically shoving him.
What
do you know?
Please, I got to rebuy another album. But yeah, so talking to Alan Kozin, I was trying to get information about what he's heard about the Red and the Blue. And I don't want to say that he told me this, but the inference was, yeah, there's going to be an expanded edition. And Tony and I ever since have been like little kids going, what's going to be on it? Because when the original Red and Blue were assembled, and we should say, we'll do a full episode on Red and Blue once those remixes come out. Because their seminal Robert Rodriguez at the one of the Beatles panels talked about Red and Blue as being massive post-breakup releases.
Now available, the only authorized collection of the Beatles. The first 2 record set encompasses the Beatles 1962 through 1966.
I need somebody help. Look at all the lovely people. Strawberry fields.
The second 2 record set continues with the Beatles 1967 through 1970.
All you need is love. You say goodbye.
These incredible collections, totaling 54 tunes, have been selected by the Beatles. Available only on Apple Records and Tapes.
Yeah, influences that lasted, right? Yeah.
Well, because it reignited Beatlemania, and those albums were so popular throughout the 70s that people our age had them. And this is my original Red album I had when I was 5 years old.
Yeah, man. I got my parents' one still here, too, it's a Capitol era, but Orange Capitol label. But this is the one, this is when I would have first heard the Beatles, is this record, like as a 3-year-old, learning how to operate the turntable.
This is one of my first ways, too. We had this on 8-track, and my version of this is the red vinyl from 78, I think, was the first one we had.
Wow. So you started with the colored vinyl, huh?
Yeah, that's just the one we had. I don't think my parents knew it was any different. That's just the one that... Dude, you have one of the misprints.
Is that right? Because this is... My Capitol label is blue on the Red album.
There were certain series of Red albums pressed with blue labels. I've got one of those too. I got it at Beatle Fest in the early 2000s, in fact, because it's such a weird anomaly.
Check them both. Yeah, they're both blue. I don't think I ever realized that. That's crazy.
It's pretty neat, but with the 62 to 66 titles. So they're massive albums for Tony, massive albums for me. I think if you're, I would say, 40-something or older, they're probably massive albums for you. Maybe younger as well, but the fact these came out in 73 and were super popular throughout the 80s, because with all due respect, one of the reasons Beatles' 20 Greatest Hits tanked in 1982, Tony, is who wanted a single-disc Red and Blue album combined with the 5-minute Hey Jude. And then when Beatles 1 came out, everyone's going, just like 20 Greatest Hits tanked, this album's going to tank. And Beatles 1 became basically 20 Greatest Hits with extended Hey Jude, became the biggest seller of the 2000s. It's so wild.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
To order the Beatles 1, call the number on your screen or send $18.98 for CD or $11.98 for cassette plus $4.95 shipping and handling to the address below. Call now.
Well, we're going to make our predictions on what's going to be on the expanded edition after we do some housekeeping, of course. We have to like and subscribe. We do. So we like and subscribe. So you should, too. That's how we see it.
I don't subscribe. I like it, but I haven't subscribed yet.
All right. Well, it's very easy, TJ. There's a little button on your, however you listen to podcasts, and you just press
cassette?
Yeah. Press record and play at the same time. And then you've got your own podcast.
Tony, I can do that because I put Scotch tape over the top of a professionally bought cassette, so now I can record over it.
There you go. Yeah, man. Write us a review. We like kind reviews. We actually prefer the kind reviews that give us more stars than less stars. So if you're feeling charitable, write us a lovely review. We've gotten some recently, and those have been very nice.
Thank you.
We have new merch. We've got some new designs. because some of our merch has been got a cease and desist from Sony. So we only had like 2 designs left. So full disclosure, I designed these. We've got
great.
The number 1 in Newtopia Untitled Beatles podcast with the seal of Newtopia on there, which is a John Lennon thing. Mm-hmm. And then I guess we'll call it the Rip-Off T-shirt. That's the Yoko when John met Yoko, and there's the ladder and the magnifying glass, and, when he looked through it, it said yes, but if it had said something like no or rip off, he would have been out of there. So our magnifying glass says rip off because there's no way John Lennon would listen to the Untitled Beatles podcast.
He'd listen to the rip off, the titled Beatles podcast.
Yeah, the one that's got the title.
Does this come from, was that on the Mike Douglas show where he was talking about rip off?
I think so, because, I've heard him say in print, he says, like, fuck you instead, but he was on national TV and George Carlin's routine.
Yeah, there are 400,000 words in the English language, and there are 7 of them you can't say on television. You know the 7, don't you, that you can't say on television? Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
One of the 7 dirty words, he couldn't say that one, so he changed it to rip off.
Also, the first thing that was in the gallery is you went in, there was a white step ladder, and a painting on the ceiling, or a framed piece of white something, and a spyglass hanging down. So I walked up this ladder, and I picked up the spyglass, did balance it there, and a teeny little writing, it just said yes.
It said yes?
It said yes. It made my decision to go and see the rest of the show. If it had said no, or, something nasty, like, rip off or whatever, I would have left the gallery because it was positive, it said yes. I thought, okay, it's the first show I've been to that said something, warm to me.
But that's the one that got used. It's either in Imagine, Anthology, the films, or both. I forget, but I always loved hearing him say rip off.
Yeah, I think it's in both of those, and Fab 4 on film, and Unauthorized Guide to the Beatles on Good Times Video.
Good Times Video. Dynamite.
Not to be confused with a complete Good Times series on VHS, which I would buy. If Rick Ran somewhere had the entire Good Times on 50 VHS tapes, I would have bought it. Signed by Sean. Cassidy, not even Lennon.
Good Times is videotape before a studio audience.
Making a way when you can. Temporary layoff.
Well, there you go. Okay, we'll put that on your Discogs want list, TJ. Of course, if you're feeling kind and you have the means, join us on the Patreon. There's 3 clubs. There's 3 levels. There should be 7, but there's only 3 right now. We're going to work our way up to 7.
There are 3 levels.
There are 7 levels.
Yeah. Have your friend write those down for you, and then in the morning you can decide, like, oh, I don't know what the universe means, but I thought I did last night. Patreon, if you join our Star Club every month, you hear your name on this very podcast. So let's do our Patreon Star Club roll call. Thank you. Long live George Harrison, Glenn K, Matt Kuharski, Beetle Dave, Susan from Baltimore, Bert Scheid, Joanne S., David S. from Chicago, no relation, Max Como in Montreal, Matt Meyer, Spring Hill, Tennessee, Mick B. from Minnesota, Nowhere Doug Tabor, Stephen A., Mary Kate, Skylar. Excuse me.
Oh, it was almost one take, folks. It was almost glorious. And I'm not doing bits. My bit is staring at Tony, willing him to get it right.
Yeah, this is very chilling. The music from here on out should be very chilling. So just so you know how I'm feeling right now. Mr. D. Sticker, Michael S. Quit it, TJ. Cat V from Minneapolis. More harpsichord in Portland. You're freaking me out, man. Terrence D. Dave B., Steve T., and Mark Garino in Chicago.
You naked yet? Not you, Mark. I'm talking to Tony.
Thank you. So those are our Star Club members. Mark also shares the same name as an author who penned this great book about the Chicago country music scene. It's called Country and Midwestern. So check that out in wherever you buy books.
that guy writes for a whole lot of publications, but won't return my handwritten mail.
Yeah, well, he put out his video, No More Fan Mail, man, and no more objects to be signed.
I'm warning you with peace and love.
Yeah, don't sign objects, folks. And I object. We'll be right back. I'm working on more transitions, Tony, to get us in and out of material.
Oh, hold for, got the air
show?
and sea show, the air show. Perfect. Oh, wow. I just saw a crazy shadow, too. Well, I think I did. Uh-oh.
The air show always, to me, feels like the beginning of the Complete Beatles, where they show the end of the war.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. For real.
Liverpool, 200 miles to the northwest of London. Nothing much ever came from Liverpool but soccer teams and British comedians.
Well, yeah, man, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the expanded Red and Blue albums. They're going to be remixed, is the word on the street. Alan told you that they were working on an expanded version. So to me, that meant like an extra disc, meaning two sides, two extra sides if we're doing LPs.
And initially, for my excited homework for this, I compiled an extra full LP for each of the Red and Blue albums.
You were going for a 6 LP set.
Why not? It's the bloody Beatles. It's sold.
It was great. It's sold. It's the bloody Beatles.
Red and Blue
album. Shut up.
So all told, this goes from a 4-record set in my mind to a 6-record set, but in your mind, it goes from a 4-record set to a 5-record set, and that saves us 9 hours of editing. So let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me, if you're doing a 6-record set, that is practically half their catalog, right? Their British catalog is what, 13 albums?
Yeah, with the past masters. And of course, I'm staring at a poster of all the American albums. No, I mean, their catalogs say Meet the Beatles, Second, Hard Day's Night, Story, Something New.
But suffice it to say, with like a super expanded one, you would be getting half the catalog. So then it's just like, oh, what am I missing out on? Tell me what I see. Tell me what you see.
Mr. Well, this one has Tell Me What I See, which is
right. Yeah, they're just changing all the pronouns to just piss you off.
Calderstone making Beatle fans angry in half the country.
Yeah, for no reason.
How come it's called They Love You now? No, it's not, guy.
What do you mean all she needs is love? I need love.
Will somebody give me all my loving back? Because I don't love myself no more. Blame it on the Lays. All right. Yeah, so at any rate, I am glad we're taking your tack on this because
5-record set, yeah.
One of the things, Tony, a 6-record set, even though it's just another side per era, I started to have a bit of a crisis because for guys our age, people our age, this is not a gender thing, for people our age, as we mentioned, these albums are so essential, and this is how I learned what canon was. This isn't just greatest hits. The album tracks in the original Red and Blue, certainly it's like half a Rubber Soul already, yesterday and today. Yeah, which I love, as you know. But things like Girl, never a single, unless you include the aborted love songs. 45 of Girl backed with You're Gonna Lose That Girl.
Right, but this is before all that.
Shortly as McCartney was releasing Girls' School. A lot of girls. It's a shame the Beastie Boys weren't around then. The like Norwegian Wood on this thing, there's so many non-single songs that are canon that when I started to make 2 extra LPs, I'm like, yikes, is I'm a Loser or No Reply really in the same category of the purpose of this record? Mm-hmm. So, and I love these songs too, but if the point of Red and Blue and what Alan Steckler from Capitol assembled was to create the songs that were the most important start to finish in the Beatles' career, singles and album tracks. So when I made my compilation, I tried to approach it the same way. Not my favorites, but what were the most important songs not included, and I try to rectify that with my list.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think we had similar tactics. I may have put in a few more favorites. To me, they are still representative of their power that they still wield to this day, you know.
Fuck, Tony added, if you got trouble to red and what's new Mary Jane to blue, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, fuck you.
Rock on, anybody.
I'm gonna put out a Spotify playlist or whatever. Beatles, fuck you. It's gonna be Revolution 9, Mary Jane. Yeah, if you've got trouble, which I did karaoke at Beatles Fest.
Just cause you're troubled, then don't bring your troubles to me. I'll rock on anybody.
Yeah, good song.
I did too. I signed up. I didn't get to do it. I signed up to sing A Beginning from Anthology 3.
Just you, just taking in the land and taking in the space solemnly.
I did that, and I signed up for Dear Whack from Live at the BBC.
Dear Whack, please ask those gorgeous lads, call the Beatles, to sing You Really Got a Hold on Me.
And then you did a Rosie O'Donnell stand-up routine. Did you ever see that with karaoke? You could do like stand-up routines.
Yes. So stupid.
Jokey-okey. I get no respect, I tell you.
Well, all right, so we are going to use our ESP now to predict what songs will be on the expanded Red and Blue albums. Let's start with the Red album. I think, did we each pick 8 songs to be added to the Red album?
I have 8 songs, yeah, so I've got basically one side of an LP.
Okay.
Tony, what are your 8 songs that you would add to 62 to 66, and in what order?
Okay, yeah. I guess I'm going to go chronological. And again, these would be peppered throughout. It's not a standalone disc of extras. These would be peppered, as I said.
Oh, why is he putting pepper on the Red album? How come they don't know the exact date Cold Turkey was released?
You're still mad about that? Our first complaint. You always remember the first. All right, so I'm starting off with 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I saw her standing there.
Nice.
I'm including Twist and Shout. Okay, well, I know, man. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that. If I Fell from Hard Day's Night. I'm going to throw on another cover, Long Tall Sally. Now, then I'm going No Reply. I'm going Taxman. Here, There, and Everywhere. And Tomorrow Never Knows.
Our first song and our last 3 are exactly the same.
Right on, man.
Tell me about your decision. You know, I love No Reply. I'm a Beatles for Sale nerd.
Yep.
I don't have any Beatles for Sale. What was your reasoning behind No Reply instead of Say I'm a Loser?
Yes, I had to wrestle with that one. Okay. Yeah, I went with No Reply, because, there needed to be more Beatles for Sale, I thought, on there. Because all they have is 8 days a week, right?
Well, yeah, but because it's so many covers on Beatles for Sale.
Yeah, there's a lot of covers. But we always talk about how the first 3 songs of Beatles for Sale is one of the great Beatle sequencing moments, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's that and Tomorrow Never Knows.
Oh, you mean the album. That's right. That's not anyway.
What does it start with? I cannot name. No,
I don't know what it starts with.
Compilation starts with.
The 2012 iTunes compilation, Tomorrow Never Knows, begins with the song Revolution. This album must be filed under rock. Failure to do so will result in shame and mockery from Interpol and the FBI.
Right. Okay, so I picked No Reply because I wanted some Beatles for Sale on there. And if I did I'm a Loser, which I was considering, that's one of his kind of Dylan songs. And I feel we already have that with You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. And I also think No Reply, that song, it has more dynamics in it. I think it's just a better song.
If I were you, I'd realize that I love you more than any other guy.
Even though as a kid, I think I preferred I'm a Loser. because much like the guy when Liverpool played "I'm a Loser" at Beatlefest, like there was some guy like near the front row who like stood up and was just like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I identified with him.
Me too.
But I thought that was a funny song to be like, yes, I'm a loser too. Yes.
Someone sees me.
Representation. I'm seen.
That's why I wanted to do Dear Whack.
Dear Whack.
Great call,
so
Tony.
that was my thinking. I also wrestled with Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally because they're covers.
Yeah.
And everything on the original Red and Blue is all original. That was something that, to me, meant a lot. That all these songs were Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, original. Starkey in there, too, with Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, and I don't think George has any songs right now on the Red album.
Right. So, and that was my reason for including Taxman. What did I considered It Won't Be Long.
Me too.
And Rain. Those are the other two. In addition to I'm a Loser, I was considering for the expanded. And in theory, you probably could cram 9 to 10 songs on there, but they only put 7 on each side on the original Red. 7, 6, 6, and 7.
Tony, I'm going to tell the story now, and I'll tell it again in the remix. I will never forget, Beatle Fam reported on this in 93, when Red and Blue finally came to CD. Everyone was like, why are you putting 30 minutes of material on the Red album each on 2 CDs? It would be cheaper if it's 31 minutes each. You put it on one CD. Yeah. CDs go 80. You put a 60-minute CD. And the response from Capitol Apple at the time was, well, we want to respect the integrity of the original album. Never mind that the cassette was a single cassette until 93 when they made them each double cassettes. It's so hilarious.
Yeah, that's very funny. So that's my Red. But I had to do it. I just like Twist and Shout just became so iconic. Like that's one of those Beatles songs that you still hear a lot.
Well, yeah, and it's. Hey, Tony, how come you record from O'Hare? What do you got against Midway? Ever since they closed the Potbellies, it's not been the same.
Why can't you just be a hobo and ride the rails like a real man?
Where's your bindle, Beetle guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I almost put a Beetle bindle at Beetle Fest. It was $49.99 and had the Beatles 1 cover on it.
Just red. It looks like a McDonald's. It's just like the Beatles, McDonald's, red, yellow, number 1. Wait, what?
The Beatles. I'm loving it.
When was Ronald McDonald airbrushed into the Sgt. Pepper cover?
Oh, my God, please. What, is it the Hamburglar?
Ba-da-da-da. Final chord of Day in the Life.
40 seconds.
14. Chair squeak. Cue the chair.
Okay, let me get to mine, because mine is very similar. But I wrestled with, I had up until about maybe this morning, Twist and Shout on mine as well.
Okay, oh, right.
I decided in the spirit of the original to kick Twist and Shout off. I didn't have Long Tall Sally.
I respect that.
Thank you. The original is just John and Paul. I rectified that with Taxman, which I'll get to, but I couldn't do any covers. So here's what I have. These are the songs that I feel were the most quote-unquote important left off of 62 to 66. They're mostly chronological, but I kind of reversed the order of the records a bit like they do, and you did this as well. On the Red album, the songs aren't always in the same order of the record. So kicks off with I Saw Her Standing There, of course. I mean, one of the classics. Then from A Hard Day's Night, I've got I Should Have Known Better, which I feel like shouldn't have been left off. To me, that's like an iconic early John song. Then I go If I Fell, which has to be on any important Beatle compilation.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it wasn't on Red, you know?
Well, how do you... I think it's tough to put that and I Love Her
yeah,
on it. So, but we change it here, and it's the mono version. I want to be very clear. It's the mono version of If I Fell.
Is that the single track?
It's for single
beginning?
track.
Yeah. That's cool.
I just like it more. Then there's a time jump that makes me sad, and I had to kick off I've Just Seen a Face when all was said and done.
Consider that one.
Yeah, it's so important. And because the original Red and Blue were based off the American masters, I looked at I've Just Seen a Face as a Rubber Soul song.
Exactly.
That's why I'm like,
too much Rubber Soul.
I can't put another Rubber Soul song. First of all, wash your mouth. There's never too much Rubber Soul.
Rubber Soul.
I do make up for it here, though. But after If I Fell, we now go entirely into Revolver session work. I've got Rain. Got to Get You Into My Life.
Oh, right.
Taxman. Here, There, and Everywhere, and Tomorrow Never Knows. I'm making up for the
You got some Revolver on there, man.
Well, because the
in addition
first
to
one,
Eleanor and Submarine, yeah.
But that's it on the original Red and Blue. How do you take their most important album? So now, plus if you include Paperback Writer from this, so you've got 3 Revolver era songs, and I've got 5 here. So there's 8 Revolver era songs now, finally correcting the egregious misstep of, and again, I'm a Rubber Soul apologist. I like it more than Revolver, but you can't have 6 songs from Rubber Soul, Hey Hey, and 2 from Revolver. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, man. No, I'm expecting the expanded editions to correct on the Revolver stuff, especially now that in today's eyes, Revolver is seen as better than Sgt. Pepper by a lot of, the people or whatever,
Let me ask you this. Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Let me also ask you, was Got to Get You Into My Life a consideration? To me, I almost said, as well as I know the Red Album, I had a moment of like, is that on 60? Because it's such a ubiquitous song that other than the Rock and Roll Music Record is not known for its appearance on compilations. Did you consider that?
No, I just did not. I did not. Because to me, Here, There, and Everywhere, I was only going to add probably 3 tops, so I didn't consider
Well, Levi Stubbs is sure going to be pissed.
Sorry, Levi.
I also left off my list.
What'd you leave off?
Very, very difficult to not put It Won't Be Long on here. I feel like.
Yeah. I actually had that. That was actually the first song I thought of. And then I was like, oh yeah, I saw her standing there. Duh.
Yeah.
Got to put that on there. Yeah. I didn't put anything from With the Beatles on there in addition to it. So that was one that I was like, but that was the one with Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally. I was like, well, if we're doing no covers, It Won't Be Long would have been on there for sure.
Okay. Well, this is where we differ a bit. I cheated a bit in Blue because my Blue album, if I can go into this, starts with Hold Me Tight and Little Child.
TJ Shanoff, the 5th Dave Dexter.
Little child, little child, little child, won't you dance with me?
No.
Okay, so no, Tony, I don't really have those 2 classics. I do have Sleep Dick. Let me get into my expanded Blue album.
Let's
Shall
do
I
it. Yeah,
take the reins on this one?
Yeah, let's hear what you got.
We start with Pepper to give George more representation. We start with Within You, Without You.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Pepper is such an important album. The only Pepper songs on Blue, of course, are the opening 3 and then Day in the Life. I feel like you got to give Pepper a little more. Why not give George a little more love there?
All right.
One of the other big issues in the original Blue album is the White Album is underrepresented.
Thank you.
It's back in the USSR. It's Oobla Dee Oobla Da, and it's While My Guitar Gently Weeps, correct?
Yeah.
Just
it's
from
all
memory?
just side 1 stuff.
Yeah. So I've rectified that. So again, we have Within You, Without You opening, and then here's where we go, Tony. I think you're going to like this. We go Dear Prudence, Helter Skelter, Blackbird, Julia.
Wow, man, you got a lot of White Album on there.
But in my mind, those 4 songs are essential both to the White Album and to the Beatles' career. I don't love Helter Skelter, but you can't deny its importance as a massive, massive part of that record.
Yeah, man, I'm totally surprised you put it on there. Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah.
I try to think of this historically, and then it's a little tricky. I have 8 songs, but because it's a bit of a medley, it feels more like 7. I end after Julia with Golden Slumbers Carry That Weight into the End.
Yes.
That's my expanded blue.
So let me ask, because I considered that. I did not put any of the medley on there.
Well, because Abbey Road's too slick for you.
It's too slick. They need to re-record it, on a 4-track, okay?
Do it at the Star Club.
Yeah, do it.
Get King Size Taylor to re-record Abbey Road.
Yeah. Put a microphone at the foot of the stage. Have them do the medley right.
Is Horst Fasher going to sing Octopus's Garden tonight?
I like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in a shade.
Yeah, so, okay, that to me, I did not include any of the medley because that to me is like, all right, where do you put that in the sequence? I feel like you have to end the record on Abbey Road, meaning with the end, with the medley. It ends with the end. So that means you're going from side 4. Here Comes the Sun, Come Together, Something, Octopus's Garden, Let It Be, Across the Universe, Long and Winding Road, then into the Golden Slumbers, I guess?
I think so, because,
something like that?
Because Abbey Road was recorded after.
Right. But then so were all those other songs, Come Together, Something, etc. Do you group Abbey Road after Let It Be and go from Long and Winding Road into Here Comes the Sun? That's where I got all messed up with how are we going to sequence all this?
Okay, so this is important. A distinction in how we did this was I treated this like a bonus disc. I didn't because to me the originals are so iconic. I kind of added which I know I think it creates problems either way you look at it.
Well, to me, I mean, to me, it's going to be 2 triple albums. If we're doing vinyl, right? It's going to be 2 triple albums. Maybe that 3rd double disc, they'll use AI to do the Angus McBean photo, but they're in Sgt. Pepper outfits or something,
Yeah, or with Ronald, Hamburglar, Grimace, and the one random young girl who hangs out with them.
Or one of the Fry Guys or whatever.
Are the Fry Guys bad people?
Yeah, they were like, they weren't murderers, but they were thieves. They were, they were miscreants, TJ.
Fry Guys took our fries.
Yahoo! We love McDonald's French fries.
I was at McDonald's in the airport. I love a burger. I love cheese. I love jalapenos. But they have like a McJalapeno burger, which is just a quarter pounder with cheese sauce and like wilted jalapenos on a bun that clearly oozes the second you take a lukewarm bite. I'm not loving it.
No.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, that's why you have to eat at Kenny Rogers Roasters. Teacher says the red album should be 5 discs and the blue album should be 6. Should be 11 albums.
Hey, George Martin, how would you make a 5-album blue album?
All right,
so what's yours? How do we differ? What do you end with? What do you do?
Well, so mine, I didn't do the medley. I just kept that off. I said we have enough Abbey Road on there, to be quite honest.
What?
Oh, yeah, man. Something. You've got like 4
songs,
Abbey Road
so you're
songs,
right.
Yeah,
you're
man.
right.
That's enough to me. I don't know. Okay, similar. I was thinking the same thing with George. Inner Light. Inner Light makes it.
I wish I'd done. I love Inner Light so
Right?
much. I only chose Within You Without You because of the importance of its place in Pepper. Otherwise, Inner Light, is my favorite Indian George song.
Yeah, and that's why I thought, like, oh, cool, put some Indian George on here. Then we get Hey Bulldog.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Fuck, you're right.
I was like, how'd you leave that one off?
I'm mad at myself. Well, because, okay, what John would I take off? I wouldn't kick off Dear Prudence. I wouldn't kick off Julia.
Okay, there you go. I also do have 4 White Album songs to add to this because I agree with you wholeheartedly. White Album underrepresented on Blue Album. So I chose Happiness is a Warm Gun. That's where it gets into a little bit of my favorite, but to me that song is just so, I don't know. It's such a fucking great song. I love that song.
You love it. It's a great song. It belongs on here.
Yeah, to me it works. I did consider Julia, but I didn't because I put Blackbird on there. To me, like, Blackbird and Julia were very similar, and I just had to pick one. So I picked Blackbird. I picked Birthday because, I went to Showbiz Pizza Place. That's what that song's all about, the Rock-afire Explosion, which we both bought 7 inches.
With different B-sides.
With different B-sides of You got the drummer's B-side. I got Billy Bob's B-side.
So to speak.
So to speak. Or pop speak, as we say here. Helter Skelter. I too had to put Helter Skelter on there.
Stereo. We both have stereo.
The stereo, yeah, I want to hear. I got blisters on my fingers. I got to have that come back.
I got blisters on my fingers.
And then I put Two of Us on there for a little more Let It Be.
Two of us riding nowhere, spending someone's hard-earned day.
I've got a feeling. I considered Golden Slumbers Carry That Way at the end. I really did. And I did consider Julia. But yeah, those were my 7 songs I added to the Blue album. Again, mine are peppered in chronologically.
I think both our lists are great.
Yeah, man, I'd listen to those records.
Untitled Beatles Podcast exclusive. Get moist.
I made an EP, Tony. And the bonus EP is called 1982 to 2023. And side A is the first remixed by Casey Baker digital issue of the Beatles movie medley.
Nothing you can do that can't be done.
And then the second track is Free as a Bird. Then you flip it over and it's Real Love and Now and Then. That's how Now and Then makes its debut. As an EP only in the deluxe reissue.
Like as a 7-inch inside the record, right? Yeah, that's so great. Like Paul did with Coming Up and later pressings of McCartney 2.
Only this isn't one-sided. This is a two-sided affair that starts with a movie medley. Got to get it back in print.
Now let me ask you this, man. Are they going to start the Red and Blue expanded editions? Are they going to start those with Now and Then? Because didn't Anthology start with Free as a Bird and Real Love on 1 and 2?
Yes, but they did those specifically as selling points. So they could label hype stickers that say includes the first new Beatles song since 1970.
For some reason, I thought Now and Then was going to be a part of the Air and Water Show, the Red and Blue albums. I thought Now and Then, for some reason, was going to be included in these Red and Blue things. What do you think? Is that just in my brain, or is that happening?
Well, I hadn't thought of that, but that's why I threw the EP in, because when you think of seminal, look, one of the weird, cool things that the Beatles did when they reissued all the 45s a couple years ago was include a double A-sided single of Free as a Bird and Real Love, which was a reminder that in the Beatles camp, these songs are kind of canon. They're not just a one-off. That to me reeked of, we're only going to do all the official UK releases, and part of that is Free as a Bird, but we're not going to put Christmas Time Is Here Again on the B-side. Instead, we're going to give you Real Love.
Right. And then now the other question is, if you include Now and Then, is it the Beatles 1967 to 70, 2023?
Well, that's why my EP is 1982 to 2023.
There you go. Right. There you go. 1982.
And the cover is all the Beatles in the early 80s. And I mean, sadly, one of John's last shots from 80. But yeah, so it's that kind of as if they superimposed over the Angus McBean burger. Now with extra cheesy nacho sauce. And think about it, Tony, you're a burger guy.
Sure.
Which you can't bite into a McDonald's burger dripping in nacho cheese without. It's basically ballpark nachos on a quarter pounder. And I don't want to die.
Yeah, get your baseball cheese out of my McDonald's beef.
Get your McDonald's beef out of my baseball cheese.
Bravissimo. Two great tastes that taste great together.
And tons of cheese goes blub, blub, blub.
Did you consider Cry for a Shadow? Or 12 bar?
I considered crying for Tony. Meehan. I'm holding a Shadows 45. I considered crying for Tony Meehan, London-born drummer of the Shadows. That's fluid enough, right?
So, Tony, tell me what. This is now a 3-album set. How does it look? In your mind, what will the record look like?
I know, that's a good question. I mean, I think it'll just have to be the same. Yeah. I don't know. It'll be the same, right? They're going to use the same Angus McBean pictures. You know, I made that joke that we need some kind of mid-period picture in there, maybe if they're going to split this up. If it's going to even be split up, who knows? They might put out a 6-album thing, you know, as opposed to a 5-album thing. They might. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. We really don't know. But I'm excited to hear whatever these mixes are.
What's interesting about that, Tony, a lot of people forget. I feel like this slipped under the radar, but I want to say in 2015, Giles Martin did remix Beatles 1. It wasn't with the same kind of technology that's being used by
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, yeah. I mean, that it predates that, but there's remixed Beatles hits on the Beatles 1 that has been in stores since 2015. They sound lovely. They don't sound that much different to me.
No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
But it should be noted that Beatles 1 since 2015 is available in remix form. And another thing, Tony, I know we'll talk about this when Blue and Red are reissued, but did you know that the vinyl of Red and Blue that came out some years ago are cut from the original analog masters? They're not cut from digital masters, whereas all of the Beatles stereo vinyl that was commercially available in 2012 is cut from the digital masters. It's interesting that when Red and Blue were reissued on vinyl for the first time since, I think, the late 80s, that they went to the original masters, not the digital. As a bit of an audiophile, do you have any thoughts on the why and the reasoning?
I guess, you know, what? Analog is the original source. Therefore, you know, it gives it the idea that it's more authentic, even though the digital master, you don't lose any generation of quality going digital. In theory, there shouldn't be a noticeable difference in theory, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just like kind of an authenticity thing. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I don't know if I'm that much of an audiophile, but you know, I notice, you know, we have ears and we like using them. So I'm a casual audiophile.
Well, I tell teenagers they're nothing if they don't test their audio systems with Steely Dan's Asia.
See, I used Toto's Africa, and now we have a world war on
I think they have some of the same players on both albums.
Yeah.
Actually, as big of a Dan fan as I am, Asia's probably not in my... It's definitely not my top 3 favorite Steely Dan records.
Doesn't matter. You're testing the stereo out.
Right, exactly. I don't know how good the speakers are till I hear Home at Last.
Yeah. I hate this song, but it tests my speakers out. This song sucks. I love my stereo, but I hate the song so much. I threw a tomato at the speaker. Now I got to get new speakers.
You drink your big black cow and get out of here.
Drink your big black cow and get out of here.
Well, dude, I am totally stoked to see how this shakes out. And yeah, we'll have to tally who was right and who got what right when these things come out. Hopefully soon. Maybe even by the time this thing is aired. Who knows, man?
Yeah, it's almost that time of year where the Beatles announce new product and Apple announces new product and kids are back in school and nobody can fucking afford eggs or milk anymore. I'm over all of it. Bye!
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Untitled Beatles Podcast. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, I figured that if we met, I'd know, just by reading.
But know what?
Remember that one, you can radiate everything you are, you can penetrate anywhere you go?
Yeah.
Syndicated.
That was just having fun with words.
You weren't thinking of anyone in particular when you were singing all of it.
How could I be? How could I be thinking of you, man?